It all started on a regular Tuesday night in my cozy suburban home. I had just finished a long day at work and was getting ready for a big presentation to a potential client. As a financial analyst, every detail counts. I had prepared a personal section with family photos, a small yet meaningful touch to make the presentation memorable. I wanted to add some older photos, especially ones from the twins' early years. I knew these pictures were on Lisa's phone, so I went to grab it from the counter. I unlocked the phone, but a strange message popped up. Face ID not recognized. That was odd. I had used her phone plenty of times before. Thinking it was a glitch, I tried again, but the same message appeared. A feeling of unease crept over me. I asked Lisa, who was in the kitchen, if she had changed her phone settings. She paused for a moment, but kept scrubbing the same dish, almost as if avoiding the conversation. "It's just for security," she said, her tone tight and defensive. I brushed it off, not wanting to make a big deal out of it, but something didn't sit right. When I asked her to unlock the phone so I could grab the photo, she hesitated. "Why don't I find it for you?" she suggested, nervously brushing her hair behind her ear. Moments later, she handed me the phone, the photo already pulled up. I forwarded it to myself without saying anything. Lisa's defensiveness lingered in my mind, though. What should have been a simple request had turned into unnecessary tension. That night, as we lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Her back was turned to me, and I finally asked, "Why did you change the phone settings and remove my Face ID?" She froze for a moment before muttering, "I told you, Mark, it's for security." But we had never kept secrets before. "What's different this time?" I pressed. She snapped, "Not everything needs to be a big deal." "You're being ridiculous." Her angry response caught me off guard. Lisa had never reacted like that to such a simple question. Alarm bells went off in my head, but I didn't push it further. In the following days, Lisa's behavior became more distant. She kept her phone with her at all times, took calls in another room, and stayed out later than usual for meetings. My suspicions grew. One evening, when she left for one of these so-called meetings, I made a decision. As soon as her car was out of sight, I activated the tracking app we had set up for emergencies. The app led me to a hotel across town, far from her workplace. I tried to convince myself there was a reasonable explanation, but after an hour passed, then two, I couldn't ignore the sinking feeling in my chest. When Lisa finally emerged from the hotel lobby, she was with a tall, dark-haired man. She leaned into him, laughing in a way I hadn't seen in years, carefree and radiant. My world shattered. I drove home in a daze, replaying every moment of our marriage, searching for signs I might have missed. Over the next week, I took action. I cloned her phone and gained access to her messages and photos. What I found confirmed my worst fears. The texts weren't just innocent chats. They were bold confessions, secret plans, and stolen moments she shared with him. I knew I couldn't confront her without a plan. Quietly, I began preparing for a divorce. I liquidated assets, moved funds, and consulted a ruthless attorney to ensure Lisa would receive as little as possible. Finally, on a quiet Saturday morning, I faced her in the kitchen. "Lisa, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. She looked up, her expression calm. "What's wrong?" she asked, feigning innocence. I placed my phone on the table and showed her one of the incriminating messages. "Care to explain this?" I asked. Her face went pale, and panic flashed in her eyes before she tried to cover it with anger. "You've been spying on me. How dare you?" "Don't deflect," I said coldly. "You've been lying to me for months. Don't make this about me." Her shoulders slumped, and for a brief moment, I thought she might apologize. But instead, she straightened and bitterly said, "You're right. I found someone else. He makes me feel alive, something you stopped doing a long time ago." Her words hit like a dagger, but I stayed calm. "You've made your choice, Lisa. Now you'll face the consequences." I told her about the divorce and the steps I had already taken to protect myself and the kids. Her defiance crumbled, replaced by fear, as she realized she had underestimated me. I walked away that day, leaving her to deal with the mess she had created. Sometimes, endings are painful, but they pave the way for new beginnings. And I would make sure they had one. I had already communicated with an attorney, and everything was in place. The house, the funds, and what she would get. Her face twisted in anger as she clenched her fists. I built this. You can't do this to me, she spat. I chuckled as I wrote her a letter. I feel betrayed by what you offered me, Lisa. You had my trust, but you threw it away for someone who will most likely disappear when he realizes everything you've lost. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She was at a loss for words because she knew she was at fault. Instead of regret, she turned to accusations and rage, blaming me for her decisions. If you want a divorce, I'll fight for it. But you won't just walk away with every penny. I spat, grinning. Calmness washed over me. Do what you must, but never forget that you are the one who destroyed this. I turned away from her, leaving her standing in the kitchen, rage and disbelief written all over her face. That image of her angry, belligerent demeanor would stay with me, reminding me that the woman I once loved was no longer there. She was a stranger, someone who would rather destroy me than face her own shortcomings. Over the next few weeks, things quickly escalated. Lisa fought fiercely, contesting every legal move I made, but my attorney was ready. I had taken every step to protect myself. Each time she tried to defend herself, she only dug herself deeper, trying desperately to hold on to the life she had stolen. The judge saw through her lies, and her case only worsened. The process was exhausting, but every small victory gave me a sense of peace. I could see the anxiety in Lisa's eyes as she realized the life she had built was slipping away. She had misjudged everything. When the divorce was finalized, she was left with almost nothing. The house was barely enough to pay off her debts. Her lover disappeared as soon as her stability crumbled. The irony was too much to bear. She had traded her marriage dignity and family for the brief thrill of an affair, but now she was alone, desperately trying to piece together a life she had destroyed. As for me, I was finally free. The rage I had once felt transformed into a quiet sense of fulfillment, knowing she was left to pick up the pieces of the mess she created. And as I disappeared from her life without a trace, I knew one thing for certain. I was better off without her.